is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 369.
You did it.
I did it. I figured it out. Wow. Big show tonight. We have Courtney Dauwalter joining us. I don't want to waste any time. We're going to talk all about UTMB, maybe a little bit of Hardrock. It's going to be a great episode. We were just talking to her pre-show, having a little too much fun. I'm already excited to just get into the conversation. So sit back, relax, everyone. Our Ginger Runner Live with Courtney Dauwalter begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 369. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Tuesdays to spend a little bit of it with us. We've been kind of on this trend now, doing our Ginger Runner Live episodes on either Monday or Tuesday. It kind of honestly reflects sort of the schedule of our guests. We've been really wanting to fit into our guest schedules because we've had some absolute home runs in the last few weeks as far as guests are concerned. Like, we're just so stoked with who we've been able to get on the show and the conversations we've been having. Tonight is no different. To have Courtney Dauwalter on the show again is always just a blessing. But right after crushing UTMB, winning this incredible international race, having her on the show, be able to talk a little bit about it, it's an honor and it's a privilege. We had her on after her last victory at UTMB, and it was just such a great show, such a great conversation. So tonight will hopefully live up to that standard. There's no pressure on our guest. It's all on us. Our guest could literally say anything they want. Courtney, I know Courtney can hear me right now. Say whatever you want, Courtney. We will.
I'll be like, uh-huh.
And what else?
Yes.
And then what? So we're very excited to have her on the show tonight. If you have questions, Kim, what can they do?
Hi, everyone. Kim Tashima Newberry here. Welcome. If you're new, come say hi in the chat room. As Ethan just mentioned, because we are live, we'll be bringing Courtney on in just a second. So if you do have questions, you can ask them in the chat room. We've already pulled some really good ones off of our Discord server, but feel free to ask anything throughout the hour.
Busy week. This is also the Ginger Runner Global Run week. It's our 6th annual Ginger Runner Global Run. So today is day 2 of that. So we also have a lot of crew members in the chat who maybe are participating in that event too. So shout out to everyone that's been doing that. In addition to shout out to all of our GR crew members. It is because of them that we're able to do this show live, be able to have guests like Courtney on, and be able to do reviews, films, and all sorts of fun stuff every single week. If you would like to join the GR crew, it's very easy to do. Just head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. You also get access to our after show, which we'll have here tonight, and our daily live stream that we do called Daily Brew, where every single day we go live, talk about running, life, things in the news. Recently, we've been talking about a lot. It's like we talked about bats, food, candy.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit of
Bats, food, and candy. What else do you need in life?
That's what you're missing.
Way to sell it.
Yeah, totally selling it. 2 individuals in particular at the top tier on Patreon. We like to shout them out at the beginning of every Ginger Runner Live. Brian Sands, a truly inspirational individual, has done some incredible things in his running career and has just inspired so many crew members. And Rick Bjarnason out of British Columbia. He is also an ultra runner and a web designer, web maintenance guy. He did the gingerrunner.com website. So those 2 individuals, big shout out to them. Thank them both very much. And again, if you've got questions for Courtney, drop them into the live chat. Let's bring on our wonderful guest. She's coming to us all the way from Colorado. She might still be in France. I don't think so, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see what language she's speaking when we bring her on. But we're just so honored to have Courtney Dauwalter back on the show. Hi, Courtney.
Yay.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. This is already too fun.
Kim and I have been talking about this show now for a number of weeks. Just been really excited to get you back on the show, because I feel like anytime we do get to talk to you, it's not a typical interview where we're like, hey, let's find out exactly how this race went and how you did this and strategy and all that. It's just fun. Like, you have this way about you that just makes things so much more free and funny, and you just bring out the best in people. I kind of wanted to start this interview with a question that, now we've had you on the show a number of times. Your career has, of course, exponentially gotten bigger. You're now one of the more recognizable names in our sport entirely. I mean, you've got like Kilian Jornet and all these big names. You are one of them. You are a household name. Like my parents know who you are. They don't even know who
They
we
barely
are.
know who we are.
Every time we show up, they're like, we need you to leave. But they know Courtney Dauwalter. And I'm curious if life for you has changed at all, like going to France and going to Hardrock and just being recognized out on the trail. Like, how has life changed for you over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I'm quite a bit, but also it's still the same. So, I mean, for sure, meet a lot of people when I'm out or at a race, and I think that's really cool. Or I get to interact with a lot of people over social media, and that's really special. But it's also just trying to keep it really simple and still enjoy the parts of life that we've always enjoyed.
There's a comment from Daniel in the chat room that says, my 5-year-old daughter knows who you are. That's
cool.
Very cool.
Has it been difficult? Like, it is a difficult thing to sort of juggle. I mean, I hate to use the word fame, but I think notoriety or even just being an ambassador to the sport, right? Because ultra running is already niche, but then you throw a name that can sort of transcend the sport. And Courtney Dauwalter is now one of those names. I'm curious, is it hard, or is it sort of overwhelming at times, or has it even gotten to that phase at all?
Well, you're being way too kind. I I think I am trying to just really enjoy the ride while it's here. And so when I get to meet people, when I'm traveling or out on the street or in a restaurant, they come say hi. I enjoy meeting them, and I know that this ride won't last forever. And so just to, love it while it's here and enjoy the chapter while I'm in it.
I do want to go back a little bit in time, because I think it's been a while since we've had you on. So like, you've been up to a lot. Let's just start there. The last year plus for a lot of people has been a challenge, both from training and racing perspectives, especially for elite athletes. I can imagine there's a bit of a struggle there of like, how do you continue to perform as an elite athlete? Have you encountered those challenges throughout the pandemic, and sort of how have you had to tackle those, or how has it been for you in Colorado?
Yeah, for sure. Last year was crazy with no races and just everything going on in the world. But I feel really lucky that Colorado never said, don't go outside, or don't, go this far from your house. Like, the outdoors were wide open for us here. So trail running was still, all green lights. And I think I was reminded during it that I don't need races and I don't need to pin on a bib to love running and to love training. So that was kind of cool to just I thought that was true, but then to be reassured of it, and find out, oh no, it's actually true, because here you are in this situation getting tested, was refreshing. And it was like, I still love trail running for trail running. So just making up my own adventures with it. Or I got the opportunity to try the Colorado Trail last summer, which usually there's not enough time with all of the races to attempt 500 miles. So that was like a beacon of light for sure. And getting to do things that normally wouldn't fit in the calendar.
I love that you brought up the Colorado Trail first. That's the first thing I wanted to sort of chat about is we haven't really got to chat with you about that. It's a 500-mile trail, extremely brutal, but also beautiful based off of what I've seen in photographs and videos and other documentaries about the route. I can imagine why you were drawn to the route. You were going after the FKT. What sort of drew you to that? Was that sort of the buildup of the year of like, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, or specifically the Colorado Trail FKT? What drew you to that?
I was eyeing the Colorado Trail for a few years, probably since doing Moab 240 and realizing, 240 miles is possible. So then what would be another stepstone after that? And naturally that would be 500.
I like that we're just doubling 100 to 240, 240. 500.
Ridiculous. So I had been eyeing it, and like I knew it was beautiful, and it was through all these parts of the state I live in that I have never been to. But I didn't think I would get the chance to try it for many years still, because in Colorado it's kind of a short window where it's realistic to go for it when the snow melts, not during any of the wildfire smoke, and then before the snow falls again, so there's like certain months where you've got to go for it if you're going to do it. But it was amazing. The trail blew my mind. Like, it was just stunning around every corner. It was so beautiful. There were all these through hikers that we got to chat to, and I was like, I get it. Like, I understand why you're spending 5 months doing this. Like, it's so cool and so simple out there to just be moving on the trail and, dipping from streams and eating snacks and going over mountains as well as you can. It's really cool. If anyone gets the chance to do even a shorter version of a through hike, they're so special, I think.
There was something sort of unique that came as a result of the pandemic. I mean, obviously, we've talked a lot about that on this show in the last few months and towards the end of 2020, in just the regards of, obviously, the horrible things that are associated with the pandemic. There were also these moments of sort of inspiration from athletes that took on big bites of efforts that they wouldn't normally do in a racing season, whether it's an FKT around a volcano or long through hikes and stuff. So it was a really sort of interesting and fun way to follow along with people like you and others across the sport. What happened with the Colorado Trail? Because we were following, and it suddenly there was news that you had to get rushed to the hospital, and there was sort of a lot of buzz of like, what happened? And I was curious if there was something that you suffered from specifically on the trail that you learned from, or like what sort of lessons did you pull from it? Yeah. What sort of went down towards the end of that?
So I didn't make it all the way to Denver like I planned. But basically, I don't know what was going on, but I remember the very first day I started, everything felt really good, but I just felt like my lungs were being really lazy. Like, I was like, why aren't my lungs joining this party yet? Where are they, and when are they going to start working? And over the course of the days that I was out there, they never joined the party, and they just kept getting worse. And I was like wheezing and coughing up a lot of things, and it was spiking my heart rate. So every time I was trying to like jog at a decent pace, my heart rate was just going through the roof. And eventually, I mean, it was like domino affecting a lot of things. So I wasn't then able to sleep because I was just laying there coughing all night. And I wasn't able to move very fast, and I wasn't able to recover very well. But in my head, I was just going to take that cough all the way to Denver. I was like, this is just the situation, and it's fine. It's going to come with me the rest of the way. But my crew was paying a lot of attention.
Oh, just lost Courtney. I think she might have. It looks like her computer might have died or something like that. So we're just going to wait for her to rejoin. I know that's a really good still frame of her. The good news is that once she joins back up, we'll be able to just bring her right on. That was a question that I was actually super curious about the answer, because I feel like I wasn't able to find exactly what happened towards the end of the Colorado Trail effort. So we were just getting to the moment where she was going to describe that. And it's almost like,
I'm out.
She's like, I'm out. My heart rate is elevated and I'm going to go take a breather. Let me just pull us up so we can reconnect with Courtney.
Yeah. And just a comment from Tim in the chat room. Tim says, always my biggest inspiration, despite all the expensive fancy gear. She reminds us that trail running is as simple as putting one foot in front of the other, moving through nature. And Meg also says, I just realized, didn't plan this at all. I'm wearing my Courtney leopard hammock shirt.
Yeah, I'll let you keep going through the comments there and just things in the chat room. I'm going to try to reconnect with Courtney here. So.
Another comment from C Chad Run. They say, Courtney, you are an amazing person and athlete, a phenomenal example of joy, athleticism, and perseverance. And I could not agree more.
Yeah, and just how humble she is and how amazing she is. Like, just the conversation, I want to lift her up and put her on a pedestal. And she's like, don't. It's just me. I really, really admire that. Let me just try to get her one last time here.
And then just in regards to Courtney's wheeze, Brian says, I love how she talks about her wheeze as its own being that came along for the ride and for the fun. And I feel like that's kind of part of how Courtney works. It's like, oh, this thing is happening, but it's just like an addition to whatever like the bigger picture of the day is. And it's just, this is just how it's going to go.
I'm super curious how that sort of translates to Hardrock and to UTMB. So once we get her back on here, we'll be able to ask those questions. The good news is that we're able to edit this out of the final show, which is great. So those of you who are watching live, you get the best of the live experience. Let me just let her know. Sent a new link.
And Heather says her computer's lungs haven't joined the party yet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it would suck if the computer like battery died or something. Just means that she's gonna have to plug it in and get it reconnected. But we'll get her back. We'll get her back. She set a time. She set aside time for tonight. There she is.
Oh, there she is.
Courtney. Okay, hold on one sec. We'll bring you on. I think we got you. Okay, we got Courtney. Hi.
What happened?
I honestly don't know.
I just saw the lid of your computer slowly close.
She's like, my lungs, they're
not along for the ride.
So the good news is
I was talking for like 15 minutes after that.
We were commenting like
Daniel says Courtney's been telling stories to no one for the last 10 minutes.
And they were the best stories, like all the secrets at UTMB. Like, you wouldn't believe what happened to this person.
Oh, it didn't record? Sorry.
It is okay. It is. I'll take the blame. Something probably on my end. I probably bumped a button, but I will say that you were just about to describe how your lungs and your heart, you were about to reach the point where you decided to pull the plug on the Colorado Trail effort. So I'll let you pick up from there, and we'll edit that whole part out like it didn't even exist.
Yeah, or leave it in. It's probably great. Basically, yeah, my lungs never joined the party. It was having all these, like, domino affected a lot of things. Like, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't recover, I couldn't move very fast because it was spiking my heart rate. But in my head, I was just going to take that all the way to Denver because it was just the weird thing that was happening during this effort. But my crew had been watching pretty closely, and lungs are nothing to joke with.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of things it could have been. And so they made the call when we were pretty close to a hospital to just bring me in and get checked out. Which I agreed to, but on the ride to the hospital, in my head, I was going to just describe to this doctor what was happening, and he was going to tell me I could go back on the trail.
Right.
I thought we were still going. Very quickly, I found out that we would not be going back on the trail with the situation. My blood oxygen was really low because my lungs just weren't working, and so they kept me there, and I'm very thankful that my crew was paying attention and they made the tough decision because they wanted Denver just as bad as I did.
Oh yeah.
So it all's well that ends well, for sure, in that situation.
Did your lungs recover? I mean, is that sort of a situation where you're like, I don't know why this is happening, and then did you get any answers? And I'm assuming they recovered because obviously you've done quite well since. But I'm curious if there was a bit of worry.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how it was going to play out after that, but they diagnosed me with just acute bronchitis because I think they weren't really sure what was going on, but it wasn't a pulmonary embolism, which they were worried about. It wasn't like COVID, which I got tested for. It wasn't any of those things that would have been more serious. And so I was back out on mountain trails probably like 3 weeks after it and
Wow.
feeling like a little sluggish, but they seem to recover pretty well from it.
Awesome. I want to remind everyone that's watching live that we do have Courtney Dauwalter on the show. Ask your questions. We did have a cool bonus question there that was asked in the chat room that we'll get to. Thank you, Eric. We'll get to that. But Kim, I'll let you take it away because we do have some live questions.
Yeah, we have a ton of live questions. So this one comes from Vivian, and this was from our Discord server from earlier today. And Vivian asked, Courtney, have you ever had to deal with imposter syndrome with your running? And if so, how did you deal with it? And in addition to that, how did you balance teaching, training, and life? In addition, any tips on teaching science? I am a brand new 5th grade teacher, so teaching every subject, which is fun, but also a little overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, a lot of things there. I think I remember going to my first 100-mile race that I signed up for and feeling like I definitely didn't belong there. So that was probably when I felt the most like an imposter syndrome, I guess. And that actually played out in the race where I ended up quitting because I got in my own head and talked myself into stopping because I wasn't made for 100 miles. I just remember looking at everyone's calves and they were like really muscular. And and I was like, what am I doing here? I don't belong.
It's always the calves. That's how you do it. Like, oh, that's a good ultra runner right there. Those calves.
But I think then I just decided that I was going to finish 100 miles and I didn't care if I was supposed to or not, or if I had the calves for it or not. I was just going to figure it out for myself. So I guess that would be my experience with imposter syndrome. As far as like balancing working and running and life, I think you just have to figure out what your priorities are and then fit the puzzle pieces together however they have to like mash together. When I was teaching, I would run in the morning and at lunch break and after school because it was a priority for me to run. But I think you can get creative with like how you fit things into your life or cut other things out if they aren't a priority. But it's hard.
And just in regards to teaching, Matt also asked a follow-up question. Do you miss teaching?
Kind of like how I was talking about earlier of just enjoying the ride. So like right now, I feel very lucky that this is what I get to do. And so I'm just trying to like fully soak in this chapter of my life and we'll see what comes next.
I kind of want to start digging into Hardrock before we even get to UTMB, just in regards to, we had discussions about that race on this show, and it seemed like the race was super fun to follow. It was very competitive for a 100-miler. It's always really interesting when you have a competitive 100-miler. There's, gaps opening up, but those gaps are getting closed and back and forth, leapfrogging at the front of the pack and stuff. It's always very exciting because, it lasts for 24 hours. So it's a lot of excitement as a spectator. For you up in the front, in this race particular, how did that sort of play out? Because I know you were having a good race and then it suddenly like between, I forget the aid stations, that things started to go south. And it sounded like it was a stomach issue, but how did that sort of play out on your end? First person perspective.
It's an amazing area of Colorado. So I was pumped to get to run it. We had that start list for the last 2 years or whatever it's been canceled. So it was so exciting to go and to get to start this iconic race. And almost right off the bat, my stomach was just awful. And my mistake was that I just tried to pretend it wasn't awful and that it was fine. But there was like, I mean, it started out bad and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just kept shoving it to the side, pretending everything was fine. Everything's fine. But some things you need to address, like being able to take in water or calories or things like that eventually. So yeah, it ended quickly from the outside looking in, but it was like a spiral down for me on the inside, almost right from the get-go.
It's it's interesting to hear you say that, because I know every time we've got a chance to chat with you about nutrition, inevitably comes up. One, our viewers are really interested in what you do, and I know that came up in questions on our Discord and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'll get to it for sure, especially around UTMB. When problems arise for you when it comes to nutrition, how do you tend to try to solve it? So in this case, you reference, smiling through it and being positive through it. I feel like that's something we've learned from you before is, smile till you make it, right? Like if things are going south, you keep the smile on your face, you keep a positive attitude, and you can really dig yourself out. When that doesn't work in this case, like, did you have any checklists that you go through, or how to right the ship, so to speak, when things are not firing on all cylinders from the get-go?
I should have, for sure. My only strategy during it was to smile through it and hope that smiles turned into fuel somehow. But
6 calories per smile.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't I mean, it was all my mistakes, because then I didn't even fill my crew in, so they couldn't even be a crew and help me, figure it out and solve it. I was really like trying to just like pretend that this wasn't happening and that it was going to just right itself by itself. But some problems you should actively address, like nutrition or your stomach going south. So yeah, it was a good learning experience for me. And it was also a really good, like, basically afterwards, then we like restarted with race nutrition, and we were like, what do we know? What has worked? What seems to be maybe causing some of the problems? And then how can we adjust the plan moving forward? Because it seems like, for whatever reason, the things I thought were working before just don't work as well anymore. Like, whatever happened, I don't know, but we got to then just kind of tinker with that puzzle piece again, which was pretty cool to like circle back to something that we hadn't visited in, years. I thought I had it dialed, and I guess became like sort of, I don't know, I just didn't think about it much anymore, because I was like, oh, I have that puzzle piece figured out, so now I can try to figure out other puzzle pieces. And we had to come back to it, which I think is a good learning experience, and hopefully then will just be helpful moving forward.
I actually can imagine, for someone like you at your caliber, that having something like this happen, I'm imagining it frustrates you in the moment, and probably there's a good period of time where the frustration is intense and you don't really know what to do or how to solve it. But I imagine there is some element of excitement, like you just referred to it as sort of exciting to figure out that puzzle piece again. It sort of makes it feel like, oh, I'm not back to square one, but there's certainly like an element of discoverability again. As an ultra runner, I know that when you find something that works, you get excited about it. You're like, oh man, these socks are the best, or this nutrition is the best. It's worked in the last 4 ultras. And then you have that one day where all of a sudden it doesn't work and your world kind of shatters for a minute. And it's kind of exciting. So like after Hardrock, was it a moment of excitement because you knew you had UTMB on the horizon? Did that connection happen?
Absolutely. I was pumped that I had 100 miles coming up so soon after, where I got to try again, and like, then I got to spend basically the month of August just tinkering around with nutrition ideas and going out on training runs and playing with different fuel things to see, and then to have a race so soon after. Oftentimes when we're signed up for 100-mile race, that's our only one of the year, and then you have to wait a whole nother year to try again. So that felt very fortunate, where I got to learn from it and then really quickly try and apply it.
It feels like kind of
that.
like where the saying like stay curious comes into play here. Like even if you think you have things dialed, you can kind of stay curious and figure out, well, what's next? What's going to be better next time?
Yeah. And again, sort of as a fan of not only Courtney, but of the sport, and to know that Hardrock ended prematurely. You know, we've had multiple guests on the show around Hardrock in the past and stuff, and that's a race that people wait years to get into, and to have the honor of being able to toe that line. I know it's a big deal, so I know that the frustration had to have been there for not being able to complete it, let alone win it. But then also the excitement of UTMB around the corner. I can only imagine that month was really fun. You mentioned getting to experiment with different things. Was there something that you experimented with that did not work? Like, what sort of fun did Courtney have during the month of August?
Let's be honest, you just want to talk about snacks.
I want to know what snacks Courtney ate that didn't work.
Well, I feel like my stomach is just getting more and more boring. Like, I used to be able to eat a lot more types of snacks. And this time I was like leaning a lot more on the liquids or even gels, which I had written off years ago. I was like, oh, I'm not a gel person. And now suddenly I was like, oh, maybe I'm a gel person.
I love it. I would love to be a fly on the wall in Courtney's kitchen is what I was going to say. And I'm like, I don't think Courtney wants flies in her kitchen. And that whole joke played out in my head. So that's a great moment.
Great.
Let's edit that one out. We do have tons of live questions for Courtney. Let's get to some of those. Courtney, you can still hear us, right?
Oh my gosh.
Courtney, can you hear us?
Oh,
Courtney, can you see us or hear us? I had a feeling by the look on her face.
is it because she didn't laugh at your fly joke?
That's exactly right. So we have another great still frame of Courtney. My guess is maybe it's an internet signal thing.
Yeah, it might be.
But we'll hold tight. We'll hold tight.
Oh,
Courtney? Courtney? She changed view. Can you still hear? We'll hold tight.
Ariel says snacks. Yeah, I think we always are interested in talking
Courtney?
snacks. Oh,
Courtney? You got us?
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's got to be an internet thing. That's sort of what's going on. But we got.
Sounds like it was Kevin's fault.
Yeah.
I was like, Kevin.
It might have just been like an internet glitch, but there was two. I'm going to replay what happened. There were two still frames of Courtney.
Also, don't sweat it, Courtney.
Seriously, don't sweat it. We were just between questions, and I made a really good joke, and you didn't laugh at my joke, and I was like, "Oh shit, Courtney didn't laugh at my joke," and then I realized it was because you were frozen.
I mean, it wasn't that funny.
Okay.
It wasn't that funny.
But your face was frozen. I was like, "Oh, it's because she's frozen." I think the internet went out. We got you. We're good. But we do have some.
This is embarrassing.
It's our fault. We'll take the blame.
It's our fault.
It's our fault. It's probably an
We
internet
were
thing.
just telling someone the other day how good our internet is, and now look at it.
Are you further away from the hotspot? Well, it's
still our fault.
It's still our fault. We'll take the blame. Don't sweat it. But we do have some live questions. I want to make sure that we get to some of those before we start talking about UTMB.
Yeah. So this comes from Jennifer. Jennifer's a newer trail runner. Jennifer asks, Courtney, love your perspective on the pain cave and shifting mindset to chip away and remodel it. Any mindset tips for an ultra noob who tends to push too hard and end up injured?
Oh, patience is huge in ultra running. And then, like our brains are so powerful. So however you have to flip the script so that if your thing is that you go too hard, maybe you flip it to something that reminds you to chill out a little bit and go into cruiser mode sooner than you would, or something like that. I don't know. I think what we tell ourselves can have a huge impact on physically how we're feeling and what we're doing. So to like focus on the things that are going on in your head.
Question from Kristen. This comes from our Discord server. Kristen says, I've read articles on Courtney's first 100-miler before, but would love to hear Courtney talk a bit more in depth about her first 50-miler or 100K. That is, if she didn't jump straight into hundreds, and what gave her the confidence to take that plunge?
I did a 50K and I was curious about the sport for sure. And then I signed up for a 50-mile race, and that's the one that got me hooked on ultra running, because it was in the Colorado mountains, which are amazing. And it was horrendous weather, like sleet and wind and hail. And it should have been like the most miserable time, but I was just running near all of these people who were having so much fun with it, and they were making the most of this horrendous situation. And I was hooked then, because I was like, oh, I get it. Like, that's really cool that this community is all about just finding what's great about what's going on instead of complaining about what's awful about the situation. So after that 50-mile race, I was like, I'm all in on this sport. I got to find out what else there is. And then I signed up for 100 miles. So I skipped the 100K step.
I want
It's
to
like going from 240 to 500. That's how the math works here.
Just gotta double it.
Math.
Speaking of hundreds, I do want to start talking about UTMB, of course. Our guest is the reigning champ, which is a pretty freaking incredible thing to say. It is.
I think we were all screaming at our computers or our phones.
I think even Maria Dalzot, who's a regular, also guest on the show, was in the chat, and she was saying that she was the one on I think the final descent that was screaming at you, Courtney. You ran by her, and she was like, "Go, girlfriend," or something like that. And you looked at her with this.
Like, thank you.
Like, thank you, but also, what?
Girlfriend?
Like, girlfriend. So she gives you a shout out here. But I'm super curious, Courtney, how it's not your first time at UTMB. You're obviously familiar with the course. You're familiar with the race. Coming off of Hardrock, having that month to sort of readapt, reprogram, reformulate a strategy. When you approached UTMB, when you traveled abroad and you were ready to toe the line with some of the best athletes on earth, both men and women, did you have a plan in place, or was it just to absorb the experience as it was? I'm curious if you intended to perform as well as you did at the event, or if it was hey, I just happened to be really competitive today. I feel good. Like, how did it play out for you towards the beginning?
I mean, I never have a plan going into a race, but always the plan, if there was one, is to just leave it all out there. See what happens if you put yourself in it, and cross the finish line with nothing left. So I didn't have like splits I was trying to hit. I didn't have a race strategy really. I just knew I was healthy, and I knew that my summer had been full of all this mountain training. And so I was ready for what the course was going to throw at me. And then I was just excited to finish. I wanted that 100-mile distance no matter what happened out there. So the goal was definitely to try to get to Champé-Lac, not totally destroyed. Champé-Lac is around 70 miles. And when I ran it in 2019, when I got there, I was like in zombie mode for the last 30 miles trying to get to that finish line because I was so wrecked. And so this time I didn't want that same march through the last climbs. So I was definitely trying to like just pull in the reins a little bit, but mostly just soak it up and enjoy it and have fun on the trails. And it was easy to do because it's very beautiful out there.
Yeah, I'm super curious, like where you train. Obviously, Colorado. There's a question in the chat from Matt, kind of in relation to this. But where you train in Colorado, does it apply directly? Like, is it almost a direct overlay to something like UTMB, where technical trails, high alpine passes? Like, how similar of an experience can you get in your training to actual race day?
Pretty similar. I'm located right near a ton of huge mountains, and so I could spend a lot of days out on those mountain trails and just practice climbing and descending and being at altitude, managing gear in mountain terrain, eating while doing all of those things. So it was a pretty direct line between the two.
When it comes to staying at the front of the pack and even picking off into the podium itself on the men's side and everything like that, like your overall performance is just, it's so incredible. This is now your second time doing that. And you just sort of referenced wanting to spend those last 30 miles in a different state of mind, like a different condition. You didn't want to be a zombie. How did you prepare for that? So in those first 70, how did you get to Champelok in order to execute those last 30 in a state of mind that is more coherent, less zombie-like?
Yeah.
How did you sort of dial that in and still maintain that lead and the competitive edge and everything like that?
I think it was, I was just trying to never feel like I was pushing. So I always had the reins pulled in a little bit through the first 50 miles or so, and was just making sure to move efficiently, but never like push very hard or feel like I was exerting myself very much. So that definitely then, played it forward, and I had more left in the tank by the time I got to mile 70. I also learned my lesson at Hardrock, where you deal with nutrition things when they come up, and
can't just smile it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so we had a plan to switch to just liquids at mile 70, but at mile 50 we ended up making that switch because solids just weren't working anymore. So but none of it was like a big deal. It was just like, okay, we're moving this a little bit sooner, but everything is still green lights and we're still good to go.
Excellent. I want to get to some live questions again. Now we're starting to talk about the big meet here, UTMB, obviously the incredible performance that Courtney had. Kim, what do we got as far as questions from our live viewers?
Yeah, so there has been a few questions just in regards to the nutrition and the difference between what happened at Hardrock, what happened at UTMB. Deb was asking, I know you just briefly mentioned it there. Deb asked, did you eat gel solid foods to a certain point and then switch to liquid calories? And what foods or what type of brands are you currently using? And do you calorie count during these races?
I never calorie counted before, and I just sort of like slow rolled nutrition all the time. But between Hardrock and UTMB, we were able to get some help from a good friend of ours who's also a nutritionist and knows nutrition things. And she filled us in on like, calories per hour type of like maximum, minimum sorts of things. So then I had kind of a goal, and like, we knew what we should be taking in each hour approximately, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. We basically just tried to put in my pack whatever calories I would need on the section. So then if I ate it all, I was doing okay.
It's also interesting with UTMB. I can imagine aid stations, the food is just different than probably what you're used to. Did you train with specific UTMB style foods, or did you just plan on
just
carrying
like charcuterie boards every night?
Yeah, basically croissants,
gosh,
bread, cheese, and meat. It would be.
Yeah.
I know they also have like fresh fruit and stuff like that. Or did you just pack your own stuff?
I just carried my own stuff.
Okay.
So I was bringing like the Tailwind stick packs and refilling them at the aid stations where I didn't have crew, and bringing all my own food between them.
Got it. More live questions.
There's a question from Eric, and Eric has been very patient, has asked us a couple times in the live show. Eric's asked, let's get right to it. Is a lack of U.S. men's success at UTMB only about A, not using poles and the steepness, or something else? I've been waiting to ask this all day.
Eric, I don't know.
I mean,
I am not the expert on the topic.
Yeah, and it's funny because you clearly did very, very well. Did you use poles?
I did use poles.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've seen this hot topic pop up in conversations across Twitter and Facebook. And
there's so many people talking about it right now. And like my personal feeling on it is like, I would rather talk about how good the women's race.
Exactly.
Because that's where it's at for me.
Totally. I don't know. It's such a hot take
Thank you for your
issue.
question, Eric.
Thank you for the question, Eric. We appreciate it. And for the super chat. That was really, really kind of you. I look at it as, you can never predict how anyone's day is going to go. No one can predict how their day is going to go. And I think it sucks when someone has to drop out of a race, no matter what. And Courtney, we've just talked to Courtney on having to drop out of multiple different things, from the Colorado Trail to Hardrock. And I can only imagine that she did not want to do it at UTMB, of course, but you did it. You managed to get through all of UTMB, Courtney, and just an incredible, incredible performance again. I'm curious now, with your second win, probably a little bit more coherent on this round. Do you have any memories? Like, do you have any standout moments that help you sort of reflect on this experience as being like, man, I remember coming across this amazing view, or I remember seeing this farmer out with his sheep, or any cool moments that you can remember that you can share with our viewers that they maybe didn't get to see on social media or live video or anything?
Oh man, it's so beautiful there. Our nighttime was really foggy though, so mostly there was just zero visibility in the night. It was a lot of fog, and it was pretty chilly, but when the sun comes up, it always is refreshing and beautiful no matter what the scene is. So for sure the sunrise. And I think I just had a lot of fun, like seeing my husband at all the aid stations. We were just like, we had a really good groove going, and both of us had like a really fun like mindset where nothing was stressful. We were both just really chill about the whole thing, and enjoying all the chaos of the aid stations.
You two are such a great team.
It's awesome.
Such a great team.
Do it to it is just one of my favorite hashtags ever. And as you're both ultra runners, you're both obviously very in sync with each other's performances and being there for one another. And I'm sure Kevin just knows exactly, like, when you come in, he can probably identify exactly how you're feeling, whether it's a smile or not, that you are in a rough state or a good state. How important is that, especially on a stage like UTMB? Do you both have to be performing it at 100%? Like, can you tell when Kevin maybe is like not crewing as good as he would normally crew? Or, like, how is that dynamic between you two? Because you've obviously been so supportive of one another.
Yeah, and it's a team sport to us. Like, for sure, a race like UTMB, having a crew is amazingly helpful. And to have that crew be as dialed as Kevin is, I mean, he's just like, he's so smart and organized, and I don't know, he's just great at like the systems of it, but also like reading how I'm doing and how to like manage that and help make it better. So to have him there was really cool. And for sure, after a race like this, we both can reflect and be like, okay, what are the things we can tweak? You know, how can I make your crewing life easier? What are the things we missed that would have made the running part easier? Like, it's a total team sport to us.
I kind of want to relive, as an outsider who has not finished UTMB, or I'm not going to say like I haven't finished UTMB, I haven't started UTMB. So let's go there. Give us a breakdown of those last few kilometers, because it looks crazy. It just looks like it transcends anything that we get to experience in the US as far as race environments are concerned. The streets lined with people. And can you take us through what it's like to win UTMB and what that atmosphere is like and what those last few kilometers are like?
It's insane. I mean, the people out on the streets are just buzzing with energy that they pass to you. So even though I was toast on the last climb, and I was entirely like out of gas by the time I made it back to town, it's easy to feel energized again because you're giving a million high fives and just all these people, you know, cheering, and it's really special to be a part of. And for sure, I was just trying to soak up all the sights and sounds and all that energy that was buzzing. And then you turn the corner, like, town seems to take forever. You're like weaving through, you don't really know where you are. And then you turn a corner and it's like the actual finish line. And that feels like then you can finally be like, okay, I made it to the finish line. Like, we got here.
We are honored to have you on the show, Courtney, to chat a little bit about this year's UTMB. And I guess maybe were there any low points? Were there any moments where you had to put on the smile to dig yourself out of the pain cave and redecorate for a second?
It was a pretty smooth sailing 100 as far as hundreds go. I had a few low points that we moved through really quickly in the night section. They were just like blips on the radar. And then when I got to the last climb, then I was out of gas. And so I wasn't even smiling anymore over the top of that one. That was just like grunting my way over this last climb, which goes forever in order to get to the downhill to get back to town. But yeah, it was a fairly smooth sailing 100 as far as low points go.
That's awesome to hear. It's exactly how we picture you running through the mountains in this case, is just full steam ahead, living life to the fullest, and it comes across in photos and videos, and we're just so happy for you, Courtney.
Big Courtney fans.
Big Courtney fans in this house. Gus too, who you can't see, he's just below. He's snoring up a storm, but trust me, big Courtney fan. I will. There was a comment in the chat there. People want to rent Kevin.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking, is Kevin for hire?
Is he for hire? And we might have to start a website to rent Kevin for hire for crewing, because he seems to do a great job. That's
a brilliant idea. He's the best.
Then you're not going to be able to get him for your races. Kevin's like, I'm sorry, Court, I can't do it.
I'm booked out.
I do, before we move into our after show, before we ask maybe some residual live questions of Courtney and stuff like that, Courtney has sort of also become well-known in joke circles and comedy circles. There's a lot of stand-up comedians that are actually looking to Courtney for advice these days. And I'm curious, Courtney, if you have any delicious jokes to serve up to our live audience. We'll give you the stage. I have a couple of great jokes that I'm more than willing to give to you for your comedy career. But I'm curious if you have any maybe lined up, ready to hit some dingers.
I love jokes so much, but joke telling is not one of my strongest skills. But I can retell. So I came into one of the aid stations at UTMB, and Kevin, while he was switching out my bottles, this is another, like, I guess you could probably upgrade your crew hire of him to include jokes if you wanted.
That's a luxury package.
Luxury package. Yeah.
So he told me this joke at an aid station. What do you call a bear with no teeth?
What?
A gummy bear. That's the luxury package of Kevin's service.
But it's just the same joke. Well, I'll give you a couple additional ones. You can either keep these to yourself or you can keep them to Kevin. If you would like, we can go one joke back and forth, joke for joke. Kim is going to have an absolute terrible next 10 minutes. But
Wait, do you hate jokes?
No, I just can't tell jokes.
She just can't tell jokes. And
whenever they're funny,
when I tell jokes, Kim, basically I get the, God, I think Kim's embarrassed for me.
I'm embarrassed with you.
With me, okay. Hey, Courtney, what state is known for small drinks?
Minnesota.
How did you get that?
Because that's where I'm from. I would be embarrassed if I didn't get a Minnesota joke.
You said that, I was like, oh, she better get
She's going to get this one. Yeah, she's going to get this one. How do you deal with the fear of speed bumps?
How?
You slowly get over it.
Man, I wish we were doing this in person.
Me too. Me too. This is kind of an ongoing joke with the show, but I don't know if you know this, Courtney. We're actually doing this show from your garage. So if you want to just come out, just come on out.
We're in your yard right now.
We're in your yard. You couldn't tell. This is fake.
That's why the internet wasn't working.
Because we were stealing it.
You guys are hogging it.
We appreciate you so much, Courtney. Thank you for your time and your smile and your energy. It is infectious, and that's one of the reasons why we love you so much. We're such huge fans of Courtney and Kevin. This is, again, package deal. We're just big fans of you both, and we're so stoked that you had such an amazing race at UTMB. We are going to move into our after show. Courtney, you have some time to join us for our after show?
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll tell a couple more jokes because I've got like 50 written down. I was ready. We'll deal with that in the after show.
We'll put Kevin in the hot seat.
Yeah. That sounds like fun. But Courtney, before we, of course, move into our after show, we like to give our guests an opportunity to sort of mention where people can follow them and continue to follow their adventures and stuff like that. So where can people go to follow Courtney Dauwalter?
You can find me on Instagram at Courtney Dauwalter or on Facebook, same name.
Perfect. Our guest tonight is the reigning UTMB champion, Courtney Dauwalter. We're so honored to have her on the show tonight. If you didn't get a question answered or anything like that, you can move into our after show with us. We're going to rapid fire through all the questions that weren't asked during the main show. But we were just so privileged to be able to have someone like Courtney on the show. And big thanks to her. Go follow her on social and show her some love and thank her for being on the show and all that good stuff. Before we wrap up this main show, though, we do have a segment on our show that we like to call our crew member of the week, where we get to recognize a member of the community who goes above and beyond, does something amazing, and inspires us all. Kim, who is this week's crew member?
You got there.
I got there.
This week's crew member of the week is Kristen. And Kristen wrote in and said, this past Saturday, I ran my first time-based loop race, which was also my first race since October 2019. Coming off 2 relatively minor injuries and still set me back a lot of running time, left me lacking confidence in doing longer events. And undertrained as I am still not cleared to do speed workouts. I ended up being a little less than a half mile short of a marathon. But more importantly, I stayed out of my head and met some great people who helped me along the way. Congratulations, Kristen, on your 6-hour race.
Nice job, Kristen. And congrats to you on being our GR crew member of the week. We appreciate you very much. And thank you all to tuning into tonight's live, Ginger Runner Live. And we'll see you next week for more live shows. This is, again, GR this week. So if you are participating, tomorrow's challenge will go up at 12:01 a.m. Wednesday morning Pacific time, but we're just we're having so much fun and we hope you guys are too. Today was Vert Day on a Tuesday. It was great.
We should have brought the whirl of fun out for Courtney. That could have had jokes on it. Next time.
We have to have her on the show. We'll do that next time. Am I forgetting anything else?
No, next week's Ginger Runner Live will be on Tuesday, and that will be our live awards show for GRGR.
Yes. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday for the awards for Ginger Runner Global Run. Otherwise, get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.